You've been told you need a $45,000 SUV, a 7-year loan, and all the fancy tech just to have reliable transportation. But here's the truth. There are older SUVs under $5,000 that can easily push past 300,000 miles with nothing more than routine maintenance. Meanwhile, today's smart crossovers often start breaking down before they even hit 100,000. This isn't about driving around in worn-out beaters. These vehicles were engineered in an era when manufacturers still cared about durability, not planned obsolescence. Simpler designs, tougher components, and engines built to outlast the competition. These SUVs prove you don't need car payments or dealership visits to have a reliable ride. In this video, I'll walk you through 11 legendary models that manufacturers would rather you forget. They're affordable, overbuilt, and capable of saving you tens of thousands of dollars while offering the kind of longevity modern vehicles can't match. Let's dive into the 11 SUVs under $5,000 that will outlast everything. Section 1, 1996 to 2002 Toyota 4Runner, third generation. The third-generation Toyota 4Runner is the textbook example of what happens when an automaker chooses durability over cost-cutting. Built during Toyota's golden era, this SUV became the benchmark for reliability in the industry, and even today, it holds that reputation. At the heart of it is the legendary 3.4-liter V6, the 5V. Mechanics know this engine as one of the most indestructible Toyota ever produced. With basic oil changes and routine maintenance, it's not uncommon to see these 4Runners crossing 300,000 miles, and there are countless stories of examples still running strong past 400,000. Even the transmission, often a weak point in older vehicles, was overbuilt and can last just as long with proper care. But the reliability doesn't stop with the drivetrain. The 4Runner's frame was fully boxed, meaning Toyota literally added more steel and strength than was necessary. The cooling system was oversized to prevent overheating even in desert conditions. Even the interior materials were chosen for durability rather than just showroom appeal. Owners often remark that their 20-year-old 4Runner's cabin still holds up better than many new SUVs after just 5 years. You can still find solid examples of these third-gen 4Runners for $3,000 to $5,000. The smart buyers look for ones with documented maintenance history, especially timing belt replacements and lower ball joint service. Two affordable but crucial items. Rust is another factor, which is why models from the Southwest tend to be the best finds. Professional mechanic forums consistently ranked this generation among the top 3 most reliable SUVs ever built. The data doesn't lie. This isn't just a tough truck. It's living proof that durability, when engineered properly, can stand the test of decades. That's why the third-gen 4Runner earns its spot as the opening pick on this list. It's a mechanical legend that modern SUVs simply can't compete with. At first glance, the Grand Cherokee doesn't look like much. The boxy body, plasticky interior, and dated styling don't exactly scream legendary. But hidden beneath that modest exterior is one of the most underappreciated American SUVs ever built, and it's all thanks to one engine. The 4.0-liter inline-six. This straight-six is a mechanical masterpiece, balanced by design. With fewer moving parts than a V6 or V8, it was built to take abuse that would cripple other engines. Regular oil changes are often all it takes to see these motors sail past 300,000 miles without ever needing internal repairs. Salvage yards are full of 4.0L engines still being pulled with 250,000 miles or more, destined to be swapped into other vehicles. That alone speaks volumes about their reputation. The magic of this Jeep is that it was built in a sweet spot, before Chrysler's aggressive cost-cutting and before electronics began to overcomplicate critical systems. Even the automatic transmission, which is a weak link in many SUVs, holds up surprisingly well in this generation if the fluid is changed regularly. Finding a good WJ today isn't difficult. Solid examples sell between $2,500 and $4,500, making them one of the best values on the used SUV market. If you're shopping, prioritize the 4.0L straight-six over the V8, not because the V8 is terrible, but because the inline-six is simply exceptional. The main things to check are rust along the rocker panels and rear quarter panels, as well as making sure the cooling system has been maintained. This isn't a beauty queen. It's an ugly duckling that just refuses to die. And while it may not turn heads in the parking lot, it will outlast most of the shiny, tech-laden SUVs being sold today. That's why the Grand Cherokee earns its place on this list. A forgotten workhorse that quietly proves American engineering can match Toyota's legendary durability. When people talk about bulletproof Toyotas, the spotlight usually goes to the Land Cruiser or the 4Runner. But hiding in plain sight is a quiet champion, the first-generation Toyota Highlander. It doesn't look rugged, it doesn't carry that cool factor, and that's exactly why most buyers overlook it. Yet, under the skin, it may be one of the smartest used SUV purchases you can make under $5,000. What makes the Highlander so special is its DNA. Toyota essentially took the rock-solid Camry platform, famous for reliability, and transformed it into a practical SUV. The result? A family-friendly vehicle with the toughness of a Toyota sedan and the utility of an SUV. The available 3.0-liter V6 engine, the same one used in several Lexus models, is a perfect example of Toyota's over-engineering. Reliability data shows these engines often pass 250,000 miles without needing internal repairs, provided basic maintenance is kept up. But the Highlander wasn't just engineered for longevity, it was designed for real family use. The cooling system was given extra capacity, making it nearly impossible to overheat on summer road trips. Interior materials were chosen for resilience, able to withstand years of kids, pets, and heavy use without falling apart. Even the paint and finishes were meant to last decades, not just a few years of showroom shine. The best part? Because it lacks the rugged image of the 4Runner, first-gen Highlanders often sell for much less, typically between $3,000 and $4,500. A well-maintained example with 200,000 miles isn't a risk, it's just entering middle age. That's why smart buyers don't focus on mileage with these. They focus on maintenance records. Consumer reports and mechanic surveys back this up, consistently ranking the first-gen Highlander among the lowest in repair frequency, even compared to vehicles half its age. It's the perfect example of a sleeper SUV, quiet, unassuming, and built to outlast the flashy models people overpay for today. That's why the Highlander makes this list. The hidden Toyota gem that proves boring can actually be brilliant. If you want Toyota's legendary reliability but prefer a touch of comfort and refinement, the early Lexus RX is where luxury meets longevity. The RX 300 and early RX 330, built from 1998 to 2005, are proof that you don't need a brand new luxury SUV to enjoy smooth rides, durable engineering, and low-cost ownership. These models share their platform with the Toyota Highlander, meaning you get the same proven foundation with added Lexus polish. The 3.0-liter and 3.3-liter V6 engines found in these vehicles are famous for lasting 300,000 miles or more with routine care. They're paired with transmissions that, unlike many modern luxury SUVs, don't collapse under the weight of complicated electronics or fragile designs. In fact, many owners report decades of use with only basic maintenance. Where modern luxury SUVs rely on fragile air suspensions and electronics that can cost thousands to repair, the early RX models stuck to proven, simpler systems. This design philosophy is exactly why so many of these SUVs are still on the road 20 years later. Insurance industry data even shows they have some of the lowest mechanical failure rates in their class, rare for a luxury badge. Best of all, these vehicles remain affordable. You can still find clean examples between $3,500 and $5,000. Look for ones with dealer service records, especially proof of timing belt replacements. That's a maintenance requirement, not a defect. And once it's handled, these SUVs are set for many more years of dependable service. Common issues? Minor ones, like valve cover gasket leaks or oxygen sensors. Both cheap fixes compared to the nightmare repairs that plague newer luxury SUVs. And unlike today's status symbols that struggle past 100,000 miles, these RX models routinely outlast expectations while delivering Lexus comfort. That's why the RX 300 and RX 330 make this list. They aren't just affordable luxury. They're a reminder that true quality is about engineering, not marketing. While Toyota often gets all the glory in reliability discussions, the second-generation Honda CR-V quietly built a reputation among mechanics as one of the most dependable small SUVs ever made. Produced between 2002 and 2007, this CR-V may not grab headlines, but it's a genuine workhorse that consistently proves itself on the road. At the core is Honda's legendary K24 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine. Perfectly balanced, efficient, and incredibly durable. This engine is known to surpass 300,000 miles with little more than oil changes and basic maintenance. Unlike many four-cylinders that feel strained in SUVs, the K24 has enough power to move the CR-V comfortably without ever being pushed to its limits. That low-stress operation is one of the secrets to its incredible longevity. The transmission is another strong point. Honda's 5-speed automatic from this era is far more reliable than the gearboxes that came later. Paired with a simple but effective all-wheel drive system, the CR-V delivers dependable traction in all conditions without the complexity that often leads to expensive failures in modern SUVs. Even the air conditioning system, an overlooked but vital comfort feature, was built to last decades instead of just years. On the used market, these CR-Vs typically sell for $3,000 to $4,500. Mileage isn't the main concern here. Maintenance history is. A 200,000-mile example that's been well cared for is still just getting started. The main things to check are rust around the rear wheel wells, especially in snowy climates, and making sure valve adjustments have been performed. That's a simple, inexpensive procedure that many owners overlook, but it keeps the engine running flawlessly for the long haul. Mechanic forums consistently rank this generation CR-V as one of the top 5 most reliable vehicles of the 2000s of any type. In fact, repair frequency data shows major components often last 2 or 3 times longer than competitors built during the same years. That's why the second-gen CR-V makes this list. It's not flashy, but it's a near-perfect example of Honda's golden era of engineering. Simple, dependable, and built to quietly outlast almost anything on the road. When it comes to sheer toughness, few vehicles can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Toyota Land Cruiser. Built for the harshest conditions on Earth, the 80 series, 1990 to 1997, and early 100 series, 1998 to 2002, weren't designed to impress at the mall. They were designed to survive deserts, mountains, and Arctic winters. And remarkably, you can still find these legends for under $5,000 if you know where to look. The 80 series came with the 4.5-liter straight-six engine, while the early 100 series introduced the 4.7-liter V8. Both power plants were engineered with massive tolerances, meaning they were built to handle stresses far beyond what most owners would ever throw at them. For many Land Cruiser enthusiasts, 300,000 miles is just the halfway point. These engines are that durable. What makes them truly exceptional, though, is their ability to thrive in extreme conditions. Their full-time four-wheel drive systems with locking center differentials provide unmatched traction in snow, ice, and mud. The heater systems were designed with Arctic climates in mind, capable of keeping cabins warm even in sub-zero temperatures. Even the electrical systems, often a weak link in older vehicles, were built to handle cold starts that would cripple most SUVs. Finding one under $5,000 usually means higher mileage or some cosmetic flaws, but that's not a deal-breaker. Surface rust, worn seats, or faded paint don't diminish their mechanical strength. What you'll want to verify is timing belt service history on the V8 models and check for front axle oil leaks, common but manageable issues. Beyond that, these trucks are nearly indestructible. In northern climates where road salt eats through vehicles in just a few years, Land Cruisers from this era stand out for their survival rates. Registration data shows they last dramatically longer than almost any other SUV when exposed to the toughest conditions. That's why the 80 and early 100 series Land Cruisers make this list. They weren't just overbuilt. They were built with one mission: to keep going no matter what. Even today, they remain the gold standard for reliability in brutal environments. The Subaru Forester has always had a loyal following, but the second generation, built between 2002 and 2006, represents a true sweet spot in Subaru's history. This was the era after the company had solved many of its early reliability issues, but before newer, more complex designs introduced additional problems. The result is a practical, capable SUV that can rack up miles well past 250,000 with the right care. The heart of this Forester is the EJ251 and EJ253 2.5-liter non-turbo engines. While not bulletproof like Toyota's or Honda's legendary power plants, they are remarkably long-lived when maintained correctly. The key here is one known issue: head gaskets. These engines typically need a head gasket replacement around 150,000 miles. The good news is that once that repair is done, especially with updated materials, these engines can easily push another 150,000 miles or more without serious trouble. Beyond the engine, the Forester delivers a balanced package of size, capability, and simplicity. Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system is proven in all weather conditions, making this SUV a dependable choice for snowy or rural areas. The body is solid, the interior is straightforward, and the mechanical design avoids unnecessary complexity. Owners often describe it as just enough SUV, without the bulk or expense of larger models. On the market, you'll typically find second-gen Foresters between $3,000 and $5,000, depending on condition. When shopping, prioritize vehicles with documented head gasket replacements. This is the difference between a money pit and a bargain. Also check for rust, especially in northern states. But mechanically, these SUVs are strong performers. Independent Subaru shops back up their reputation, with repair data showing that once the head gaskets are addressed, these Foresters become extremely reliable long-term companions. Many mechanics note customers still bringing in 200,000-mile examples that run and drive like they're half that age. That's why the 2002 to 2006 Subaru Forester earns its place on this list. It's a practical, affordable, and reliable option that proves sometimes one big fix unlocks years of worry-free driving. At first glance, the first-generation Ford Escape doesn't look like much. Its awkward proportions and dated styling mean most shoppers scroll right past it. But under that plain exterior lies one of the most underrated and reliable American SUVs ever built, thanks in large part to Mazda's engineering influence. Developed during Ford's partnership with Mazda, the Escape borrowed heavily from Japanese design philosophy, focusing on long-term durability instead of short-term cost savings. The real gem is the 2.3-liter Duratec four-cylinder engine. While modest in power, it was built with surprising strength and routinely lasts 250,000 miles or more with basic maintenance. Pair that with a robust automatic transmission, rare for American vehicles of this era, and you've got a drivetrain that just keeps going. Where this Escape really shines is in its simplicity. The boxy body means fewer complicated seals to fail, excellent visibility, and plenty of headroom. The interior wasn't luxurious, but it was tough, easy to clean, and designed to take abuse. It's the kind of SUV that doesn't mind getting used as a family hauler, work vehicle, or winter beater. On the market, these Escapes are true bargains, usually selling for $2,500 to $4,000. The key is sticking with the 2.3-liter four-cylinder. Avoid the V6, which isn't nearly as reliable. When inspecting, look for signs of rear brake line corrosion in rust-prone states, and make sure the transmission fluid has been changed regularly. Those two checks alone can mean years of additional life. Fleet records from taxi and delivery services confirm what individual owners have been saying for years. The first-gen Escape delivers one of the lowest costs per mile of any SUV in its class. That kind of data is hard to ignore, especially when most people assume American vehicles from this era are money pits. That's why the first-gen Ford Escape makes this list. It may not win beauty contests, but it proves that sometimes the smartest buy is the one everyone else overlooks. The second-generation Toyota RAV4 is the perfect example of Toyota hitting its engineering peak. Simple, efficient, and built to last far longer than anyone expected. While today's RAV4 models are filled with complex electronics and hybrid systems, the early 2000s version kept things straightforward. And that's exactly why so many are still on the road with original engines and transmissions. Buyers could choose between a 2.0-liter or 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine, both of which have proven to be nearly unbreakable. The 2.4-liter, in particular, is famous for running almost indefinitely with nothing more than oil changes and basic maintenance. Owners regularly report passing 300,000 miles without any major repairs, a milestone that many modern SUVs can't even dream of reaching. What makes this RAV4 stand out is its perfect balance. It's small enough to be nimble and efficient, yet big enough to serve as a practical daily driver or light family hauler. The drivetrain is simple, the suspension is sturdy, and the entire vehicle was engineered with wide safety margins. In short, it's a vehicle that doesn't try to be flashy. It just works, year after year. On today's used market, second-gen RAV4s typically sell for $3,500 to $5,000 depending on mileage and condition. When shopping, look for clean title history and records of regular oil changes. The beauty of this generation is that there are virtually no widespread, catastrophic issues. Most problems are limited to normal wear items like struts, wheel bearings, or brakes. cheap and easy fixes compared to the electronic failures of modern SUVs. Even the marketplace data proves its reputation. Used RAV4s from this generation consistently command higher prices relative to their original MSRP than almost any other SUV of the same age. That resale strength is a direct reflection of how much trust buyers place in their longevity. That's why the 2001 to 2005 RAV4 earns a spot on this list. It's not just reliable, it's a textbook case of Toyota building a vehicle so durable that even 20 years later, it continues to embarrass newer, more expensive competitors. When people think of rugged American vehicles, heavy-duty pickup trucks usually come to mind. But the G800 Chevrolet Tahoe and GMC Yukon, built between 2000 and 2006, might actually be General Motors' most durable creations. These full-size SUVs have earned the nickname American tanks for a reason. The heart of these vehicles is the legendary 5.3-liter Vortec V8. With its iron block, pushrod simplicity, and generous engineering tolerances, this engine is one of the toughest GM has ever produced. Owners and mechanics routinely report them passing 300,000 miles with nothing more than basic maintenance. Unlike later GM engines plagued with active fuel management problems, these earlier designs were built before unnecessary complexity started to hurt long-term reliability. The toughness doesn't stop at the engine. The 4L60E automatic transmission, while not flawless, is extremely dependable when serviced regularly. Transfer cases in the four-wheel drive models are equally robust, and even the HVAC systems, often a weak point in older SUVs, continue working reliably decades later. It's this across-the-board durability that keeps so many of these SUVs still in daily service, often as family haulers, tow vehicles, or even police and fleet units. On the used market, you can find these Tahoes and Yukons for $3,000 to $5,000, often with higher mileage but plenty of life left. The key things to watch for are rust around the wheel wells and frame, and the condition of the transmission fluid. Regular fluid changes are what separate the 4L60E transmissions that last 300,000 miles from those that fail early. Avoid examples with heavy modifications, as they're more likely to have been abused. Fleet records back up their reputation. These SUVs have some of the lowest engine replacement rates of any American vehicle from the 2000s. That kind of data proves they weren't just tough for their time. They remain competitive with, and often superior to, modern SUVs in long-term reliability. That's why the GMT 800 Tahoe and Yukon deserve their place here. They're proof that American engineering, when done right, can build a vehicle just as enduring as Toyota or Honda's best. A true full-size workhorse that can outlast the payment cycle of 3 brand-new SUVs. When most people think about ultra-reliable vehicles, they picture rugged, bare-bones trucks like the Toyota 4Runner or Land Cruiser. But the Lexus LX 470 proves that true durability doesn't have to mean sacrificing luxury. Built on the same foundation as the Toyota Land Cruiser 100 series, the LX 470 represents the peak of overbuilt engineering paired with Lexus refinement. At its core is the legendary 4.7-liter V8, the 2UZ FE engine. Widely considered one of the most indestructible engines ever made, this power plant was designed with massive tolerances and components that simply don't wear out the way modern engines do. It's not unusual to find S470s with 400,000 miles still running smoothly, often with only routine maintenance along the way. Even when maintenance has been less than perfect, these engines tend to keep going, which is nearly unheard of in today's over-engineered luxury vehicles. But the LX 470 isn't just about a stout engine. Every part of this SUV was designed with decades of service in mind. The transmission, the full-time four-wheel drive system, the cooling system, all were built to handle extreme use. Even the interior materials hold up astonishingly well, with many examples still looking respectable after 20-plus years of family duty. Of course, there are a couple of weak points worth noting. The air suspension can become expensive to repair as it ages, but many owners simply convert to traditional coil springs for about $1,500, eliminating the problem altogether. Timing belt replacements are another important maintenance item, but far from a deal breaker. Beyond those, there are no major flaws, just normal wear items. Finding one under $5,000 takes patience, usually requiring higher mileage models from the early years, 1998 to 2002. But even at 200,000 miles, an X470 often has more dependable life left than a brand new SUV rolling off the lot today. Insurance and reliability data confirm what owners already know. The LX470 has one of the longest average service lives of any luxury SUV ever built. It was created during a time when Lexus was still building its reputation on unmatched quality, and it shows. That's why the LX470 closes out this list. It's not just a reliable luxury SUV. It's proof that durability and comfort can coexist. In an era where automakers design cars to be disposable, the LX470 stands as a reminder of what true over-engineering can achieve. Modern automakers want you locked into car payments, warranty extensions, and endless dealer visits. They design vehicles with complex electronics, fragile components, and lifespans that barely stretch beyond the warranty. That's why SUVs like the ones on this list are so important. They represent a different era of engineering, one where durability was the priority, not disposability. Think about the financial impact. The average new SUV costs over $45,000, with monthly payments pushing past $700 on a 6 or 7-year loan. Over that time, you'll not only spend tens of thousands on the vehicle itself, but you'll also face costly repairs once the warranty runs out. By contrast, buying one of these proven, overbuilt SUVs for $5,000 or less and budgeting about $1,500 a year for maintenance means you save nearly $600 a month. Over 6 years, that adds up to more than $40,000, money that could go toward a home, education, or investments instead of disappearing into a depreciating asset. There's also an environmental angle that rarely gets mentioned. While new vehicles may have slightly cleaner emissions systems, the process of building, shipping, and eventually scrapping a brand new SUV carries a massive environmental footprint. Keeping an older vehicle running efficiently often has a lower overall impact than manufacturing a replacement every few years. In other words, extending the life of a well-built SUV isn't just smart for your wallet, it's smart for the planet. Most importantly, these SUVs give you freedom. Freedom from unnecessary technology that fails catastrophically. Freedom from being tied to a dealer for every little repair. And freedom from the planned obsolescence cycle that turns car ownership into a financial trap. These 11 models aren't just affordable alternatives. They're proof that the industry once built vehicles to last, and that with the right knowledge, you don't have to play by the rules of today's disposable car market. By choosing one of these under $5,000 survivors, you're not only making a practical decision, you're making a statement. You're showing that you value longevity, simplicity, and independence over hype and marketing. And in today's world, that might be the smartest move you can make. The truth is, every single SUV on this list is more than just a vehicle. They're a direct challenge to the way the modern auto industry operates. Automakers thrive on keeping consumers in debt, cycling through new cars every few years, and convincing you that older models are unsafe or outdated. But the data tells a very different story. Vehicles built in the late 1990s and early 2000s were engineered with margins of strength that most new SUVs simply can't match. When you drive a 20-year-old Toyota, Honda, Jeep, or Lexus that's still running strong at 250,000 miles, you're proving that the cycle of planned obsolescence isn't inevitable. You're proving that smart buyers can step outside the system and save tens of thousands of dollars while enjoying a vehicle that's every bit as dependable, if not more so, than something fresh off the lot. And here's the real secret. The automakers know this. Every 4Runner or Land Cruiser still on the road at 300,000 miles represents a lost sale, a missed financing deal, and a customer who can't be pressured back into the showroom. That's why dealerships push hard to discredit older vehicles and emphasize tech-heavy features, because those features don't just sell cars, they break cars sooner. By choosing one of these proven SUVs, you're not just buying transportation, you're buying independence. Independence from debt, independence from unnecessary complexity, and independence from a business model designed to keep you spending. So the bigger picture here is simple. These SUVs aren't just about surviving another 100,000 miles. They're about giving you the freedom to step outside the system, to invest your money where it actually matters, and to take control of your own financial future. That's why automakers hate this list. Because once you understand that longevity beats novelty, their entire playbook starts to fall apart. When you strip away the marketing, the glossy brochures, and the promises of next-generation features, what really matters in a vehicle is simple. how long it lasts, and how much it costs you over its lifetime. That's where the SUVs on this list shine. They were built in an era when engineers were allowed to overbuild components, when durability mattered more than saving a few dollars on production, and when the goal was to earn a lifelong customer, not just a 3-year lease. Think about the numbers again. A $5,000 SUV that lasts you another decade with routine care is not just a bargain. It's a financial strategy. While others are locked into $700 monthly payments, you're driving something that's already paid for, with money left over every single month to save, invest, or spend on things that actually improve your quality of life. Over 6 years, the difference can easily exceed $40,000. That's more than just savings. That's wealth building. And these vehicles don't just protect your wallet. They protect your peace of mind. Instead of worrying about touchscreen malfunctions, expensive electronic modules, or turbocharged engines straining under complexity, you're driving proven machines with parts designed to be serviced, not replaced at outrageous costs. You're stepping into vehicles that mechanics know inside and out, with decades of experience keeping them running. The real value isn't just in avoiding payments. It's in the freedom that comes with owning a vehicle you can trust. Freedom from dealer dependency, freedom from unnecessary technology, and freedom to drive without the constant fear of catastrophic, wallet-draining failures. That's what makes these SUVs so special. They aren't just relics of a different time. They're reminders of what real value looks like. And in today's auto market, that kind of value is priceless. Looking ahead, the auto industry will continue pushing high-tech features, complex drivetrains, and vehicles designed to be replaced rather than repaired. But smart drivers know better. The SUVs on this list prove that lasting value doesn't come from glossy touchscreens or the latest driver assist gimmicks. It comes from solid engineering, mechanical simplicity, and proven reliability. Owning one of these under $5,000 legends isn't just about saving money today. It's about building a smarter future. Every dollar you don't spend on car payments is a dollar you can invest in your home, your family, or your retirement. Every mile you drive in one of these vehicles is a mile you're not handing over to a dealership in service fees. And every year you keep a tough, reliable SUV on the road is another year you're stepping outside of the cycle the auto industry depends on. This is more than just a list of vehicles. It's a strategy, a way to take control of your finances, reduce waste, and prove that older doesn't mean obsolete. These SUVs represent freedom, freedom from debt, freedom from unnecessary complexity, and freedom to make your own choices about what real value looks like. So the next time you see a shiny new crossover with a $45,000 price tag, remember, somewhere out there is a 20-year-old 4Runner, CR-V, or Tahoe still running strong, still delivering value, and still proving that the smartest move on the road isn't always the newest. That's the power of choosing wisely. And that's the future you can build when you put longevity above luxury and engineering above marketing. At the end of the day, these 11 SUVs aren't just affordable used vehicles. They're proof that durability and smart engineering once defined the automotive industry. They stand as living evidence that cars don't need to be disposable, that reliability doesn't require a $700 monthly payment, and that longevity is still possible if you know what to look for. Automakers fear this list because every person who chooses a $5,000 4Runner, CR-V, or X470 is one less person financing a new crossover. That's a lost sale, lost financing revenue, and lost service dollars. Dealers thrive on turnover, but these SUVs break that cycle by offering decades of dependable use for a fraction of the cost. For buyers, the takeaway is simple. You don't have to play by the rules the industry sets. You can step outside the system, drive something that outlasts expectations, and keep tens of thousands of dollars in your own pocket. These vehicles prove that the smarter choice isn't always the newest. It's the one engineered to last. So whether you're after Toyota's bulletproof reliability, Honda's golden era precision, or GM's underrated full-size workhorses, the path forward is clear. The road to freedom from debt, complexity, and constant payments begins with knowledge and the courage to act on it. These SUVs are more than machines. They're symbols of independence in a market designed to keep you trapped. And for under $5,000, they might just be the best investment you ever make on 4 wheels.